everybody, and welcome into this edition of SportsNite. I'm Parker Gatewood, and on today's episode, we're going to be talking all things college basketball. The NCAA tournament is upon us, and we are going to go all the way from the play-in games down to the Final Four, and who's going to take the big dance. So today, I am pleased to be joined by Mr. Tommy Mantice, Joey Basil, and Dustin Levi. Guys, thanks for being here.
No problem. Thanks for having us, Parker.
Absolutely. And you know what? First, before we kind of diverge into the tournament, I want to get your opinions on the tournament itself and the overall reaction. And as far as teams who did get in and teams who did not get in, who surprised you that should have made it, and teams that did make it and you were like, wow, well, how'd they end up there? Dustin, let's start with you.
As far as snubs, I think SMU. You know, Larry Brown did a great job with that team this year, a heck of a coaching job, and I think they got I think when they talked about it, I remember they were reviewing things on ESPN, and he was talking about how their out-of-conference schedule was pretty weak, and I thought about Louisville and Wichita State. I mean, they got into the tournament, but they had weak out-of-conference schedule and conference games, you know what I'm saying, within the conference. So I was surprised about SMU, and I was surprised about Louisville and Michigan State. You know, Michigan State won the Big Ten tournament, which, in my opinion, is the best conference in the country. And they only got a 4 seed. And Louisville's, and you talk about the eye test. Louisville passed the eye test. They playing as good as any team in the country right now. So those are the ones that really stuck out in my mind.
Was there any team that made it in? I know you said Louisville and Michigan State surprised you as far as seeding, but was there a team that made it in that surprised you, that took the place of perhaps SMU?
I mean, not really. You know, I think they did a good job of getting the teams in there. There was a lot of good teams this year. So, but I don't think they really snubbed anybody outside of SMU. You know, so I think they did a good job of making the field and evening out pretty good. So yeah.
I would argue that Iowa does not deserve to be in. I'm a big. I've lived around Iowa. My dad went to Iowa. I've watched this team play, and they've lost 8 of their last 9. Their best player is Roy Marble, and he is a fantastic basketball player. But going into the tournament, losing 8 of their last 9 and not really playing that well, losing to Northwestern, and I'm from that area too. So knowing both of those teams, Iowa does not deserve to be in. I mean, they got the playing game, and they should lose to Tennessee. I mean, this team is just really struggling, and it's just kind of one of those classic Iowa stories where they have a lot of talent, and they just can't get it done.
Joey?
My biggest snub, I guess, I'd have to agree with SMU. I really watched a lot of them in the last couple weeks, trying to see what Larry Brown was doing with the team down there. I think the biggest surprise to me as far as getting in-wise, just based off the overall bracket, is Cal Poly in the play-in game. They came in with a 13-19 record and got in. And like you said, Iowa got in, but then you look at the teams that are left out. Illinois didn't have the best season, but they hung with Michigan in the tournament. The Big Ten tournament. They knocked off a couple big teams throughout the year. They'd probably be my biggest snub and interesting add-in.
I think that I agree with Dustin, what you said about SMU. Larry Brown, phenomenal coach, really did a great job with that Mustangs team. And I think that the seeding was probably what surprised me the most. And you mentioned it, Louisville. Louisville's a team that's playing fantastic basketball as of late and has really been maybe the one kind of consistent. Them and Michigan State, I think, have been the most consistent over this entire year. And both of them being seeded 4 was really a big-time surprise to me. And then I also thought that Duke might have been maybe a 2 because they had a chance at being a 1 there if they would have won the last game against Virginia. Did not. I thought that they got a seed too low, but overall, I was very pleased with the committee. Dustin, you got something?
I felt like for Wichita State, because they were 34-0, I think the committee pretty much loaded their section because they put a lot of great teams in the Midwest region. They had Michigan, Duke, Louisville. All those teams were considered to be number ones at one point. And when they have Kentucky, Kentucky was one of the top teams going in this year. And they didn't really exceed their expectations this year and pretty much fell short. They're still very talented and they're playing great basketball right now, and they're 8th seed. And that's going to be tough for Wichita State because when they get past the first round, they have to go, or the second round, they get past the second round, they have to go against Kentucky. And that's rough for them. I think they just loaded their section up, and I didn't really like that as much.
I think one of the things about it that entire Midwest side of the bracket itself, If the entire thing, with Wichita State coming at the 1, which we all expected them to be a 1 seed, number 2 team in the country coming in. But once you get down to Duke and Louisville and just Michigan, even Michigan at the 2 seed in that bracket, I don't think the standings really matter as far as seeding goes, where it's going to come to the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
It matters as far as lining them up goes, but they're all going to wind up playing each other, I think.
And we're going to get to it in a sec, guys, and that's the South region. But a team in specific in the South region that there was a big reaction to, seated as low as they were, was New Mexico. What are your guys' thoughts on New Mexico? Did a really great job in that Mountain West tournament, and it won, and they're at a 7. What do you think?
Well, New Mexico, I've seen them play when they played against San Diego State, which was a great game, by the way. I think New Mexico is very underrated and overlooked. They have 2 big guys down low. They were really dominant in Mountain West region. And I think they're seeded correctly because I can't really see somebody putting them over Ohio State or Syracuse or Kansas. Those teams, they had tougher schedules and they're in bigger conferences with better teams. So it's not so much an indictment to New Mexico. It's more an indictment to their conference because their conference is not as strong as the Big 12 and the Big 10.
I do. All right, and with that, let's stay in the South, guys. And Tommy, I want to start with you. We're going to go straight into our little bracketology portion here. Tommy, let me know about your South region. Who's going to be the upsets, the teams that are making a Final Four? Let's have it.
All right, let's see. I got to go with Dayton over Ohio State. I've seen, again, we've watched the Big Ten tournament and the Big Ten throughout the year. I just don't think Ohio State has the firepower. I think Aaron Kraft is a pretty good point guard. He's got some, he's a senior, so he knows what he's doing, but I don't think that they're going to go very far. I think they're going to lose first round to Dayton. Dayton's a very good team. Very underrated team. They can really play with a lot of teams. Again, you guys said New Mexico is a good team. A lot of people are thinking about VCU, and I think VCU, after last year, kind of disappointing in my opinion, lost to Michigan in the second round last year. I think they're going to get out and do some really good things. I think they can beat UCLA if UCLA can get out of Tulsa. Again, I saw VCU a couple of years ago when they played in Chicago, and I love Shaka Smart. He's a great coach, and he knows what he's doing. Once you have that experience and, you kind of have a downfall another year, look out. I think this is going to be a big year for them.
How about let's start from the top and work our way down and then work our way over to the Elite 8 and Final Four.
Okay, obviously Florida's going to win against Albany or St. Mary. That's never happened. So let's just play that through. Pittsburgh, I think Pittsburgh's going to come out against Colorado. Again, Colorado kind of injury prone there. VCU, like I said, I think UCLA gets out against Tulsa. I think Tulsa's a good team. They're very similar to VCU. They play above the rim. They like to run. But I think UCLA's got some good players with the Ware brothers. Very good team there. Syracuse beats Western Michigan. Western Michigan, a MAC team, doesn't have the same amount of firepower as Syracuse does. And Kansas will beat Eastern Kentucky. I think all of us have New Mexico beating Stanford. Florida will beat Pitt. I think Pitt's a good team, but Florida is a force to be reckoned with. They got a lot of seniors that have continued to play throughout their college career, and they're going to be very, very good. VCU, again, will get out of UCLA. I think they're just too athletic for UCLA.
Really? In San Diego?
In San Diego. It doesn't matter. VCU, again, they're a very good team. I think Syracuse beats up on Dayton. I think Dayton, that's a good run for them, beating Ohio State. Kind of a rivalry there, if you can think about that. And I think Kansas gets out against New Mexico, though, very slightly. And again, with Kansas, we don't know about Joel Embiid. Just thinking right now, he probably will be there at about 75 to 80%. So I think that's good enough to get past New Mexico. And then we go, keep moving forward here. I think Florida beats VCU. I think as athletic as VCU is, I think Florida is pretty dang athletic as well, and they can really play with anybody, and they're going to be very good. And then Syracuse beats Kansas, again with that Joel Embiid being about 75 to 80%. I think Syracuse, behind Jim Boeheim and C.J. Fair and all those guys, they can pull through, and all those big coaches, you need them. And then out of that, in my Final Four, my first pick, I know it's the number 1 seed, but I think Florida's a force to be reckoned with. They got a lot of guys that can really play, a lot of seniors. I think that's my favorite part about this team. They got a lot of seniors and a senior guard, and they can really, really play well against tough teams.
Go ahead. South region.
I got a lot of the same picks as Tommy. I'm going to take Florida and Pitt, VCU. First changeup I have from Tommy, I'm taking Tulsa over UCLA. I had a chance to watch Tulsa in person back in right before the end of winter break. Tulsa's a very, very athletic team. They like to play above the rim, something that I think could really benefit in their favor. I'm going to go with the Big Ten powerhouse, Ohio State, even though you're going with Dayton. I just feel like, Ohio State, when they get in the tournament, they're always going to, buckle down and get the job done. Syracuse, New Mexico, and Kansas. Florida, Pitt, I got Florida. Tulsa, VCU, I've got Tulsa once again. I think they're really evenly matched up teams. I think they're going to pull it out. Ohio State, Syracuse, I'm going to go with Cuse. New Mexico, Kansas, I got Kansas. Florida, Tulsa, I got to stick with the number one Florida. They're too solid overall. Just to, they're not going to get beat by anybody until later in the big dance. Cuse and Kansas, I'm taking Kansas. It kills me as an Illini fan to go with Bill Self, but he gets the job done. And then Florida, Kansas, I'm going to send Kansas to the Final Four.
All right, Dustin.
Well, I have most of the same picks as Tommy and Joey. I have Florida taking over against Albany, same areas, either one, but I mean, that's pretty much a foregone conclusion. I have Pitt beating Colorado because Colorado was hurt. And Pitt, I think they're better than what their record shows because they played in a tough conference, played in the ACC this year. And they lost a lot of close games, and defensively, they're very, very good. I got VCU. I have UCLA beating Tulsa. UCLA is extremely great offensively. I think where their problem lies is on the defensive end. They've been inconsistent, but they've shown once they buckle down and play defense, they can score with anybody, And I have Ohio State beating Dayton. I think Ohio State, just like Pitt, is very, very good and better than their record shows. They played in the Big Ten. They lost a lot of close games to like Michigan State and Michigan. They play a lot of great teams. That are ranked really high and have higher seeds in the tournament. So I got OSU. Then I have Syracuse beating Western Michigan, and I think that game will be a scare because Western Michigan, I've seen them play recently, they pretty much dominated over the past month of the season, and I think they're on the high, and they have a lot of talent on that team and a lot of shooting, and in Syracuse, they play the 2-3 zone, and the best way to beat the 2-3 zone is shooting, and I think Western Michigan has it, but Syracuse will override that and take it over. I got New Mexico beating Stanford. I had KU beating Eastern Kentucky, and then I have Florida beating Pitt, because they're too solid, they're senior laden. They pretty much got everything filled out. I got UCLA beating VCU. I think VCU, their strength is their press. But when you have a great offensive team, they know how to handle that naturally. So I think UCLA will beat VCU. I got Syracuse taking over Ohio State, and another scare, I think, because they're both two great defensive teams. But I think that Syracuse has too many weapons, and I think they can pretty much slow OSU down because they have problems scoring, and the 2-3 zone will really mess them up. I have New Mexico and Kentucky. Not Kentucky, Kansas. Kansas beating them and going on to play Syracuse. I got Florida beating UCLA, senior laden. They're not going to let, UCLA come down and just run them down the floor. They're going to slow the game down, muck it up a little bit, and Florida's going to override them. I have Syracuse beating Kansas. And only reason I have that is because I don't know the status of Joel Embiid. And they play the 2-3 zone, and the 2-3 zone seems to nullify superstars, or star players, whatever. I'm gonna say superstar because it is college. But Andrew Wiggins, I think he's been playing great, but I don't think they have enough shooting to break him out of that zone. So I got Syracuse going over to go against Florida. Then I have Florida beating Syracuse and heading to the Final Four.
All right, real quick, I'll run through mine real quick before we head on over to break here. Again, we all are pretty similar in this region. Florida and Pitt, VCU, UCLA, Dayton, Syracuse, New Mexico, Kansas. Florida will play UCLA and triumph over them to make it to the Elite Eight. Syracuse will play Kansas, and Kansas will win in that one, which will set up Kansas going to the Final Four and playing to get into the national championship. And with that, guys, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, we will talk the East, the Midwest, and the West regions of the bracket. All come up here on SportsNite. Stay tuned.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dick Vitale of ESPN, and I'm on VUTV. It's awesome, baby, with a capital A.
Interested in the television industry? Stop by our office in Schnabel Hall and join VUTV today.
Welcome back to Sports Night. I'm your host, Parker Gatewood, here back discussing the NCAA tournament. We've already covered the South region in our earlier part of the show, and this time around, guys, we're going to get to the East part of the bracket. Powerhouses like Virginia and UConn. We're going to talk about them. And Tommy, let's start with you. Give us your picks for the East region.
Okay, we kind of wish we did the East last because I felt like we should do best for last, but that's okay. Virginia obviously wins there. And then I have Memphis beating George Washington. I think Memphis is a very good team. They have one good win in them. And then the Cincinnati-Harvard game, just going to leave with this. Harvard is going to win that one, and I'll get to Harvard later on. Michigan State, Delaware. Michigan State obviously won the Big Ten tournament. They're going to beat Delaware. I think this is a big upset. Providence will beat North Carolina. I don't think North Carolina has that much left in them. Iowa State. Iowa State's a very good team. Play a lot of good teams will beat them there. UConn and St. Joe's. Shabazz is a very good player, but we're going to go with St. Joe's on that one. I have a good feeling about St. Joe's, and then Villanova will beat Milwaukee. I'm sorry, Milwaukee. As we'll keep going here, Virginia.
Horizon League.
Horizon League, absolutely. Virginia takes down Memphis, I think, pretty handily. And then this is where it gets interesting because Harvard plays Michigan State, and I'm a Big Ten guy. But what I've seen from Harvard, and the small portion of what I've seen, is absolutely ridiculous. Harvard is going to take down Michigan State.
Wow.
Harvard is going to take down Michigan State.
Every ESPN analyst has picked Michigan State to win the entire thing?
I know, and that's why I'm going to pick them because I don't trust anybody.
And Tommy's
This is
not
a
the
lesson. This is a
ESPN
good
analyst.
lesson. This is a good lesson for you, Dustin. Don't pick the guys. Don't look at Joe Lombardi and all these guys and Jay Billis and say, "Oh, Michigan State's going to win." Oh, I guess I'm going to pick Michigan State. Nothing is guaranteed. And this is a good example right here. Michigan State has been healthy for very long. Harvard's a very good team. They have excellent ball movement. They have an excellent player in Wesley Saunders. And they have an excellent point guard in Brandon Curry. He's a senior. They got older guys. This team is very good. And I'll continue on with Harvard here in a few minutes.
Wow.
Providence, ISU. ISU wins that. St. John's Villanova. Villa wins that. And then the Virginia and Harvard game. Harvard runs out of their magic. They lose. They go. It's too bad. I kind of wish they went to the Final Four. ISU and Villanova. I think ISU wins that one. I think Villanova has kind of been inconsistent at times throughout this season. Take ISU on that one. Virginia and ISU then. And Virginia is very hot. They've won a lot of games in a row here. And I got to take them over ISU. Virginia goes to the Final Four.
Sending 2 #1 seeds to the Final Four.
You'll see what I got later on.
Gotcha.
And so the big thing from Tommy's here is Michigan State, a powerhouse who a lot of people have chosen to go far and deep into this tournament. Tommy's saying not so much. The scholars from Harvard are taking this one.
It's a good lesson. Don't listen to these guys in ESPN.
You know, that whole starting 5 are possible #1, round 1 draft picks, Michigan State.
Yeah, it's Harvard. I mean, have you seen Harvard play? Harvard is a really, really good team.
All right.
Joey.
I don't know how I follow that up. I'm going to go ahead and take Virginia against Coastal Carolina. George Washington over Memphis. Harvard, I'm going to stick on the Harvard bandwagon over Cincinnati. And I'm going to take Michigan State over Delaware, as I'm pretty sure everybody will. I'm going with Providence as well over North Carolina. Iowa State over Carolina Central. UConn over St. Joe's. Villanova over Milwaukee. And then I'm going to take Virginia over George Washington. Michigan State over Harvard. That's where we're going to butt heads here. Iowa State over Providence. Villanova over UConn. And then I got Virginia, Michigan State. I'm taking Michigan State. Then I'm going to take Iowa State over Villanova. Michigan State's going to the Final Four.
Any game in there, Joey, that kind of sticks out to you? Any perhaps upset that has potential to go further than maybe you even said, or just a team that's just too strong in this East region?
The one that might be a little bit worried about is the UConn-Villanova game. I know Villanova's a really good team, but UConn has a great track record in the tournament. You know what I mean? It's
Won a
just
couple
one of
years
those
ago
things.
with Kemba Walker at the helm.
Yep. It's just going to be one of those things that it's just going to be dependent on if Villanova decides to show up or not.
All right. I have Virginia beating Coastal Carolina, as everybody does. I have Memphis beating George Washington. I got Harvard beating Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati has too many knuckleheads, and Harvard's pretty much going to outsmart them. I have Michigan State beating Delaware. I have
You're bringing basketball IQ into this as well.
Hey, I'm just saying, man. You know, Cincinnati doesn't have a track record for having the smartest players. Harvard, I can't say the same. So, I have North Carolina beating Providence. I think North Carolina, they've overachieved this year, and I think they're actually going to beat Providence. They have enough talent. Iowa State over NC Central. I have Connecticut over St. Joseph, and I got Villanova over Milwaukee, unfortunately. And then I got Virginia and Memphis meeting up. I have Virginia beating them. I think it's too good defensively. I have Harvard and MSU. I'm going to go with Harvard. No, I'm not. I'm going to Michigan State. I'm not going to pick Harvard over Michigan State. They're too stacked. I have North Carolina versus.
Jab there.
I have North Carolina.
That's fine.
Yeah, Harvard, okay.
That's fine.
I have North Carolina versus ISU. I have ISU winning that. They're too good offensively. They play at a fast pace, and North Carolina plays the same pace, but when you have better talent, you're pretty much going to win out. I have Connecticut beating Nova. I think the combination of Shabazz and Ryan Boatwright will be a little bit too much for Nova's backcourt. So yeah, I have Virginia versus MSU. I have MSU beating Virginia. I have ISU beating Connecticut, and then meeting up would be MSU and Iowa State. Picking MSU, make it to the Final Four.
Solid.
All right, so 2 out of 3 have MSU going to the Final Four.
I'll say this.
While the third doesn't even have them reaching the Sweet 16.
I'll say this:
How about that?
if
That's
Michigan
insane.
State gets past Harvard, I mean, if they somehow get past Harvard, then they could easily go to the Final Four. I can see them easily being Virginia and ISU or Villanova. I'm telling you, Harvard, look out. You got to have a sleeper somewhere. You can't just go. You know, you gave me slack for going number ones, but you got to have some
Just
some fun with this.
as a quick little hit here, Tommy, a team lower than an 11 seed has never made the Final Four.
I didn't pick them to go to the Final Four. I didn't
thought
pick
you did.
Harvard. No.
You're saying they're
I
going
picked
to Virginia. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
All right. Now,
Wow.
for my own picks, I have Virginia beating Coastal Carolina. Not much of a contest there. They're too good. 28-6 on the year. Great team. Memphis is going to triumph over George Washington in that one. Joe Jackson is a phenomenal point guard paired with Austin Nichols and a lot of other talent on that Memphis Tigers team. Memphis is going to win that one. They're going to put up a good fight later on, but we'll get to that in a second. I also think that Harvard is going to trump Cincinnati in the first round. So not a lot of love here for Cincinnati in the first round here for us from this panel, but I think Harvard is playing great basketball, and I think Cincinnati is kind of in a lull right now. Harvard's going to take that game. Michigan State will beat Delaware. That is no contest. They should win that one by around 30. Michigan State is one of the best teams in the tournament this year. The Spartans have a great leader in Tom Izzo and players on the court, Adrian Payne and just Harris. They're stacked, like Dustin alluded to earlier. Then we get to UNC Providence. I think that's going to be a great game. UNC is going to take it. Providence, coming off of the Big East championship win, not enough. Carolina's good. Michael McAdoo, very good. Iowa State and Edgem will trump North Carolina Central to make it into the round of 32. UConn will beat St. Joseph's, and Shabazz Napier will lead his team into the field of 32 as well. Nova will take down the Horizon League champs, the Milwaukee Panthers, as tough as that is going to be for the Horizon League.
I kind of want to use the term Horizon League champs very loosely this year.
You know, they put a good string of games together.
I don't know how that happened.
But nonetheless, Nova wins that one. Now we go into the 32. You got Virginia-Memphis. That's going to be a very close game in which Virginia is going to come out on top. I think Joe Jackson runs out at the end. I really love Joe Jackson as a point guard. He's very good. But Virginia is going to win that game. Then you have Harvard-Michigan State. Again, no-brainer. Michigan State wins this one by around 15 to 20 points. The Spartans are too good this year. I love Michigan State.
Wow.
Next, UNC and Iowa State. Once again, I think that the Cyclones are too good to not reach the Sweet 16. Cyclones are going to take on UNC, and they're going to win that game. Up next, UConn and Nova. Love this matchup, really do. And the Huskies, UConn, are going to defeat Villanova and make it to the Sweet 16. I agree with Dustin on this one, that UConn has got the power to go to the Sweet 16 this time. Then we have in the Sweet 16, Virginia, Michigan State. Michigan State will win this one again. The Spartans are going to win this one by somewhere around 10 points. They're a very good team. I like them going to the Elite Eight. And then you have Iowa State, UConn. This one's going to be a tough game as well. But I think Iowa State this year has put together a string of great games, and I think they're playing some good basketball right now. Iowa State beats UConn, and that puts us at an Elite Eight matchup of Michigan State and Iowa State. And the Spartans are going to the Final Four. Harris, Payne, Appling, Izzo. That's all you need to know. The Spartans are in the Final Four.
That's fair to say. I mean,
Harvard. Wow.
Harvard. You gotta watch him play, Dustin. You gotta watch him
So
play.
we've kind of, up to this point, halfway through, we've had a few very, we've had some shocks so far, but nothing too big. Now we're going to get to the Midwest, and a bird told me that we are going to have a shocker in this one, but we are going to start with Tommy on this one. Tommy, take us home on the Midwest region before we get to the West.
All right, this is what I got. Wichita State, and then Kentucky, St. Louis, SLU, and then Louisville. Massachusetts. They take down either Iowa or Tennessee. If Iowa wins, I'm going to be amazed. Duke beats Mercer, Texas, and then Michigan will move on. As we go to the top here, Kentucky will beat Wichita State. I think that's going to be their first test possibly all year, and I think Kentucky will pull that out. And Louisville will beat down St. Louis. Duke will move on against Massachusetts, and then Michigan will take down Texas. I'm sorry again, Parker, for Arizona State. I just think Texas has a lot of good players.
They're a tough team.
Yeah, Michigan. Yeah, Texas is pretty good. And we go to the top: Kentucky, Louisville, Duke, Michigan. I have Louisville taking down Kentucky. I think Kentucky's just too young, and I think Louisville is really, really, really good. Duke and Michigan. Again, I'm like the anti-Big Ten guy here. I'll take Duke because I like Jabari Parker and Hood and all those guys and Coach K. I think this is a good year for them. And then we have the Louisville-Duke matchup, and I'll take Louisville to take down Duke. I just think they're a force to be reckoned with. Montrezl Harrell is an absolute monster, and Russ Smith, and even don't forget about Cold Hand Luke. He can shoot the lights out. So again, Louisville, hottest team possibly next to Virginia. I think they're just too tough. Final Four.
Hancock, a guy who really took over the championship game
Yeah.
for the Cardinals last year.
And that's great because that shows anybody really can come in and make an impact. We even saw Spike
Albrecht, sure.
Yeah.
That guy, man.
The great Spike.
Major onions. Major onions.
So Louisville going to the Final Four
Yeah.
from the main Mantice.
That's not
Tommy
number one
Mantice.
seed, Joey. Okay, it's number 4 seed.
All right, it's about time you changed your mind.
Oh my gosh.
All right, my turn, Mr. Gatewood.
Absolutely, Joey, take it away.
All right, this is the hardest bracket to pick out of all of them, out of the four. I've really only got solidified my third round or the second round games are the only ones I really have solidified on who's going to win what. I've got Wichita State over whoever wins the play-in game. I have Kentucky over Kansas State, even though I think that's going to be a close game. I really think Kansas State has a chance to give Kentucky a scare, but I think Calipari will get his guys to pull that one out. I've got St. Louis over either North Carolina State or Xavier, Louisville over Manhattan. I've got Tennessee beating Massachusetts, Tennessee winning the play-in game against Iowa. I think they're going to get hot, win at least one game deeper into the tournament. This is the big one, Duke and Mercer. Before I give my answer on this one, I want to explain this. Every year, when I look at a bracket, I look at it as a whole, just like we got it here on a piece of paper, and I look at the brackets, and I look at one game and go, that's the one that's going to screw everybody's brackets up. And I picked the opposite team. I'm going Mercer.
There you go.
The Mercer Bears.
There's my man.
I've got it written down.
There's my
Mercer,
man.
the Mercer
Wow.
Bears are going to knock off
Thank
Duke
you.
in the first round of the tournament.
Even with the great
This
Jabari
guy's-
Parker.
Jabari
He's got an
Parker,
imagination.
Rodney Hood, Coach K.
Jabari's
No.
playing
No.
like the
No
best player in
respect
the
for
country.
the Blue Devils.
No.
Could happen.
Wow.
I,
All right.
Could
I,
happen.
I don't know.
never know.
I don't know a whole lot about Mercer's body of work. I watched when they played us here or at Valpo, but that's not a good measuring stick for that team.
This could be as crazy as Tommy's Harvard pick.
Oh wow!
You gotta
There's
have
nothing more
imagination.
crazier than that. I mean,
If you don't have imagination,
And
you're
then,
not going to win anything.
and then we move on. Texas, Arizona
Imagination.
State. I got ASU, Michigan,
pick.
Wofford. Who is Wofford? Is that even a team? So obviously I'm going Michigan. Wichita State, UK. I got to go with the UK. Like Tommy said, that's going to be Wichita State's first big test, and I don't think they'll be able to handle it. As much as I'd like to see them run the table, go undefeated, you have to be realistic with it. St. Louis and Louisville. I got to go Louisville, set up that interstate rivalry. Tennessee, Mercer. I got to go with Tennessee. Arizona State, Michigan. I got Michigan. Now, back to this is where it gets kind of blurry for me in this Midwest region. UK, Louisville. I have ties to both sides. My family's about an hour north of UK, about an hour south of Louisville. There ain't going to be nobody at the Walmart in Horse Cave, Kentucky that day. I'm going to go Louisville just over overall talent. I think they've got a best shot. Michigan, Tennessee, I got Michigan. Going to the Final Four, it's a crapshoot. I think they could come out. If they could tie, I think they would.
So you have a rematch of the title game from last year to play for a Final Four spot.
Yep, and
Do you think we see much of the same in that one?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a tight game. Like I said, if they could tie and both move on, I think that's how I'd want it because I can't pick. But I'm going to have to. I'm going to go Michigan in that one. Michigan gets the Final Four seed, and then I'll tell you who they're playing in a little bit.
well, I have Wichita State beating Cal Poly or whoever plays in the playing game. You know, everybody does. I have Kentucky beating Kansas State. I would love to pick Kansas State, but they're coached by Bruce Weber, and Bruce Weber doesn't do good in
Bruce Weber.
tournament games ever. I have NC State, a playing team, beating St. Louis. I think T.J. Warren is too good, and I think he can take them, past one game. He's very talented. I have Louisville beating Manhattan. I have Tennessee, another playing team, beating Massachusetts. I have Duke beating Mercer. Tommy said you got to have imagination, but I guess I have no imagination. I have Arizona State upsetting Texas. I think they're very even, but I think it's going to be a really close game. So I'm going with ASU. I have Michigan beating Wofford. That was a team, just like Joey said. I forgot all about Wofford. Wichita State and Kentucky. I have Kentucky beating Wichita State. Wichita State has had a test all year, so I think Kentucky has the talent. They've been playing great lately, so yeah. I have NC State and Louisville, and I have Louisville beating NC State. Louisville's been playing great this year. I have Duke versus Tennessee. I have Duke. Jabari's been playing like the best player in the country, and Rodney Hood's been playing great as well. I have Michigan State and ASU. I have Michigan beating ASU. And Kentucky going against Louisville. I have Louisville taking it in that battle right there. I think Kentucky is very young, and I don't think they're isn't good enough just yet. They have the talent, but I don't know if they can put it together. And Louisville has experience. They still brought back most people from the title team last year, except for Peyton Siva and Gorgie Jang. Tough one right there. Yeah, and then I have Duke beating Michigan because they played earlier this year, and Duke pretty much demolished them. I believe if they match up again, Duke would.
The thing about that, though, is the Michigan team that's playing now is a completely different team than when they played earlier in the year.
I think Duke team is completely different. They're tougher.
I'll give you that. I
tougher.
just don't be a devil's advocate there.
Yeah, I believe you. I respect your opinion, Joey. It's okay. And then I have Louisville and Duke beating up in the Elite Eight, and I'm taking Duke. Jabari has just been playing out of his mind right now. And Rodney Hood, that combination, when they're on, they're pretty much unbeatable with the shooting they have. And Jabari give him a little switch with all the shooting he has, like a post game. And they're good to have the inside-out game. And talent pretty much wins out in the tournament. So I got Duke going to the Final Four.
So we've got, just to recap here, Duke, Michigan, Duke.
Louisville.
Oh, Louisville. Oh, you had Louisville. My mistake.
Just a like devil's advocate here. We all know Wichita State's decent. We don't know how good they are.
Yeah.
I mean, we can assume they're good. They went 4-0. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but once again, playing devil's advocate, what if Cal Poly or Texas Southern comes in, wins the play-in game, catches Wichita State sleeping?
It
It's
could
a possibility.
happen.
It really is.
It almost happened last year.
It
almost did.
It did with Gonzaga.
Gonzaga almost lost
And
that.
the thing about that is that it's never happened. So
It's gonna happen sometime.
But it could happen.
What a better time, and what a better team for it to happen.
And Wichita State hasn't played in a couple weeks now.
Exactly.
They played their tournament game a while ago, and everybody else is pretty fresh, And I think they're pretty much screwed with the bracket. They have a tough. Just say everybody wins. The higher seed wins every game. They have to go against Kentucky, then Louisville, then Duke. I mean, that's just rough. Yeah. Or Michigan. I mean, that's just the toughest, part of the bracket.
And I think, though, if they come out of that with a clean slate and they move into the Final Four, they've proven themselves that they're a legitimate team. And that if that was the way it was to go, I mean, obviously I don't have it like that on my bracket, but if that was the way it was to go, I think you'd be stupid not to pick them to win the tournament if they get to the Final Four.
But I think the thing is, though, that this just Midwest region is just so good. It's like they have 4 teams that could have been number 1 seeds. Louisville is pretty much underrated. Duke could have got a number 1 seed if they didn't lose to Virginia. I mean, we all have different picks, and that's crazy. That's a really tough region.
About that Louisville getting a 4 seed, I think Pitino kind of screwed himself on that one, because after they won the tournament, he said something about, I think we should be a 1 seed, but the politics are going to screw us like they always do, and then they got the 4 seed. Yeah. So I think that has a little bit to do with it. Everybody, getting back to him on that.
The committee, I mean, we learned after watching yesterday that it's all about body of work. And it's not just the end of the season, it's the whole thing. And I'm not the biggest fan of that because obviously, we get some, was Louisville doing it number 4, but that's just how it is. And again, Wichita State, again, you guys said they have to earn it. That's probably what they were thinking. Like, they haven't played anybody, and they gotta if we're gonna put Wichita State in here number 1, they gotta earn it. They gotta play all these teams and make sure that they are the actual national champions.
Yeah.
Real quick, Joey.
Yeah, they faced. I mean, they didn't have an easy walk through the Missouri Valley Conference tournament. Yeah, the scores were blowouts, but I mean, the first 30 minutes of those games, they really had to fight.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's part of the competition, and that's why they're there. But again, they really do. They really have to earn it.
And real quick here before we head on out to break, I'll give you my picks to round out the Midwest region of this one. I like Wichita State taking on whoever they play. I think Texas Southern will win that game, and then Wichita State wins there. Kentucky beats Kansas State. Going to be an easy one for the Wildcats, playing great basketball. John Calipari and crew are going to go in there, and they're going to win that game. That's going to set that matchup up. NC State is going to win the play-in game with Xavier, and then going to trump St. Louis. Jordair Jett, great player, but NC State is just too good right now. TJ Warren, a phenomenal player, won ACC Player of the Year, very good. NC State's going to win that one. Then you go to Louisville, Manhattan. I think I've got a feeling about that game. It's going to be tough, but Louisville's been playing great basketball. Louisville's going to trump Manhattan in that one. Then you go to Massachusetts and the winner of Iowa and Tennessee. Tennessee has been playing great basketball, and I think Tennessee's going to win the playing game and then beat Massachusetts. So Tennessee is going to win that one. Duke and Mercer, I don't agree, Joey. I think Jabari Parker is too good, along with Rodney Hood and Suleiman and Coach K and all them. Duke wins that one, moves on. The Arizona State Sun Devils are going to win against Texas. The Sparkies are going to make it into round 2, and they're going to go up against Michigan, who's going to beat Wofford. Then you go into the round of 32. I wrote it down at first, and I thought about it, and I took it back. Kentucky is going to lose, and Wichita State's going to move on to the Sweet 16. I trust the Shockers. They will shock the world by continuing their stellar play. They're going to beat Kentucky. It's going to be a good game. Then you have NC State and Louisville. Again, Louisville on an extreme hot streak right now. Louisville is going to beat NC State in a very competitive game, and they're going to go play Wichita State in the next round. Then you have Tennessee Duke. I think this is an easy win for Duke and the Blue Devils. Jabari Parker, again, phenomenal talent. Going to go to the NBA more than likely this upcoming year. Blue Devils are going to win that one. Then you go to ASU Michigan, and boy, is this going to be a fun game to watch. So then we take it on over to the Sweet 16, and we have Wichita State Louisville. Louisville is going to win that one, and the run ends for the Shockers. They will be shocked themselves when Louisville goes in there and beats them by around 15. So then we got Louisville moving on to the Elite Eight. Then real quick here, you got Duke, who's going to beat Michigan. Too much star power for them not to get to the Elite Eight. I love Duke in that one. Then probably the best Elite Eight matchup that could possibly happen for me in this tournament, Louisville and Duke. Louisville's going to come out on top. They're playing great. They've got extreme momentum. Russ Smith is sensational. They're a good team. Louisville is making it to the Final Four.
All right.
And with that, guys, we're going to take our next break here, and when we come back, we will have the Western region to finish up, and then we get to the fun stuff. The Final Four and the championship game. Who's taking it all home? We're going to take it home in a second here, right back on Sports Night. Welcome back to Sports Night, and where we are talking NCAA tournament basketball. Guys, we've covered the South, the East, and the Midwest, and now it's time to get into the Western region. We've had some bold predictions, we've had some no-brainers, and we've just really we've told a lot about these teams that are coming up. We got a lot of insight right now, and I am this bracket. I'm excited because this one to me is a toss-up. So I'm very excited to see hear your guys' insight on that one. And Tommy, with a smirk, we're gonna start off with you.
I think you're going to really enjoy my bracket. I think you're really going to enjoy it this side. All right, first off, Arizona. They're going to beat Weber State. Then Oklahoma State is going to take down Gonzaga. And then North Dakota State takes down Oklahoma. A lot of people are sleeping on North Dakota State. I think they're going to win that one. San Diego State, I have high on them. They can beat New Mexico State. And we go down to Baylor and Nebraska. This is where I show my Big Ten love. I think Nebraska's a very good team. They got a good coach there. Nebraska takes down Baylor. And then, oh man, it's Creighton. It's Doug McDermott. They take down L.A.
Tommy, a big fan of
You'll figure out how big of a fan I am of Doug McDermott. The man's unstoppable. And then we got Oregon and BYU. I think Oregon is gonna take down BYU. Although I'm a big fan of Jimmer, and I'm glad he's on the Bulls. We're gonna have Oregon there. And then Wisconsin, again, I'm showing my Big Ten love. They take down American. Now this is where it gets interesting. Arizona and Oklahoma State. This is a very tough game to call. I think Arizona's a very good team, but I think they don't have a player named Marcus Smart. And I think Oklahoma State takes down Arizona. Again, 2 number 1 seeds in my bracket that go down.
They do have a player named Aaron Gordon.
Aaron Gordon's a good player, but I mean, point guards, I think point guards are a huge part of this NCAA tournament. They usually win you a lot of games. I just talked to Kemba Walker about that. I think just you have that type of player, you're going to win. Let's keep going here. North Dakota State versus San Diego State. I think San Diego State has been in the tournament for a while now. I think they're going to push. They're going to have a big year here. I think they take down North Dakota. And then Nebraska and Creighton. I think this is a no-brainer. I think Creighton takes down Nebraska. Doug McDermott goes for about 45 points. Okay. Then we go down to Wisconsin and Oregon. Wisconsin, kind of a sleeper in my opinion. I don't think a lot of people thought of them too much before all this, all the bracketology came out. Wisconsin takes down Oregon. Now we get to Oklahoma State and San Diego SDSU. I think Marcus Smart, again, is a fantastic player. But there's something about San Diego State. I just love the way they play.
Only 4 losses this year.
Only 4 losses
good competition.
this year. Very good team. Oklahoma State has had their ups and downs, especially Marcus Smart. I don't know how much I can trust him. I think San Diego State takes down Oklahoma State. And then we have Creighton and Wisconsin. And Wisconsin's a very good defensive team, as all Big Ten teams are mostly. But again, you have a player named Doug McDermott.
Wow.
You take him down.
A lot of
Take him
faith
down.
in
Wow.
Doug McDermott takes him.
Wow.
They're going to take him very far. And
One
then it's
name all the way.
SDSU and Creighton. And
Wow.
Dustin knows where I'm going with this. I think everybody in the world knows where I'm going with this. I've only talked about one player this entire time, and that is Doug McDermott. And Dougie McBuckets, as they call him. I don't like that nickname too much, but Doug McDermott, Doug McBuckets, gets it done against SDSU,
McBuckets.
takes them to the Final Four. And Dustin,
Wow.
I got to talk to you about these predictions you made.
these predictions. You know what? Hey, there's a lot of things that could happen in this bracket.
It's true.
There's a lot of things, and then
Hey,
Doug
no, I get
McDermott
it.
is experienced,
Hey,
senior.
he's great.
He's got nothing to lose.
He's great.
He's one of the best players, one of the best scorers
Just on
in the league.
Sports Illustrated cover.
Yes, absolutely. His dad's coaching him up.
Heck of a player. I love
Doug
him.
McDermott
really
to the
like
Final
Doug McDermott.
Four.
Doug McDermott to the Final Four. And Parker, I know you hate him with all your guts.
That's not. That's
you
not,
hate him with all your
you know,
guts.
that's not true.
That is very true.
Because hate is a strong word. I
really
I
don't
don't
like
buy
him.
into all the hype of Doug McDermott. I don't buy into his hype.
I'm being very blunt here. You really don't like him. And I don't know why. There's a lot I like about Doug McDermott.
Oh, he's a great kid. But statistically,
Statistically, you can talk about
but we're not
statistics all
talking
day.
right now. Joey, take it away.
All right.
Tommy's got Creighton and Doug McDermott in the Final Four.
I'm going to go Zona over Weber State. OK State's going to take off of Gonzaga. North Dakota's going to knock out Boomer Sooner. Oklahoma. New Mexico State's going to take off San Diego State. Baylor, as long as they wear them neon uniforms, they're going to go deep into this tournament. I've got Baylor and Scott Drew knocking off Nebraska. Creighton over Louisiana Lafayette. BYU's going to take out Oregon. And Wisco's going to knock off American in the usual understood matchup. Arizona, OK State. I got OK State. North Dakota, New Mexico State. I'm going to go with New Mexico State. Baylor, Scott Drew, and the neon uniforms are going to knock off Doug McBuckets and Creighton.
Big mistake.
BYU taking on Wisconsin in Milwaukee, mind you. An hour to the east of Madison, Wisconsin. It's going to be Wisco all the way. Taking back a look at the top. OK State, New Mexico State. I got OK State moving on. Baylor and Wisconsin. Wisconsin's going to take it. I've got Wisconsin moving over to the Final Four. It's giving me 3 out of the 4 teams are going to be that are in the Final Four. Are going to be Big Ten teams.
All right. Wisconsin. So Wisconsin to the Final Four.
Wisconsin to the Final Four.
For Joey Basil
Everybody loving
on
that
that
Big
one.
Ten.
Wow.
And we got Creighton and Wisconsin. Dustin, let's hear it.
All right. I have Zona beating Weber State, of course. I have Oklahoma State, like everybody else does. Marcus Smart to be too much for Gonzaga. I have North Dakota State beating Oklahoma. I have San Diego State beating New Mexico State. I have Baylor beating Nebraska. I got Creighton and Doug McDermott. I'm taking the first game right there. I got Oregon beating BYU, and I have Wisconsin beating American. Now, I have Arizona beating Oklahoma State, but I think that's pretty much a toss-up because, Oklahoma State, even though they struggled, I remember Kentucky, even though they fell short of expectations, they have a lot of talent. And when in the tournament games, talent tends to win out. It just
A lot of
does.
good 8-9s.
It really is. It really is. I have North Dakota State beating San Diego State. North Dakota State, I've seen this team play. They're the best kept secret. If they win more, even if they make it past, they make it past San Diego State and make it past Zona, I wouldn't be surprised. I have Creighton beating Baylor. Neon uniforms can't stop Doug McDermott. So
Yeah, they blind you.
can't blind a shooter like that. I'm sorry. I got Wisconsin beating Oregon. Wisconsin's a great defensive team, and Oregon's a very underrated offensive team. I think they can take it. I got Zona beating North Dakota State. I just think they have too much talent for North Dakota State, but I wouldn't be surprised if North Dakota State beats Zona. But I got Zona in my bracket. I have Wisconsin and Creighton. Now, as much as it pains me to say this, I got Wisconsin beating Creighton, but I have an example to bring up. You remember a couple years ago, the Jimmer played Florida, and I believe in the Elite Eight, or I believe in the Sweet 16, 2-3 matchup, and he just couldn't beat a better team. Wisconsin is just a more complete team than what Creighton is, and those one-man teams normally do not tend to make it that far. It's only so much a one man can do. Doug McDermott can go out there and score 70 points. You know, not against Wisconsin's D. You know.
Yes, Tommy. You might
I
say
wouldn't
he
be
could go out
surprised.
there and score 70.
But then I have Zona and Wisconsin meeting up. I think Zona has too much firepower. And I have another number one seed making it to the Final Four. Go figure. Zona.
Zona to the Final Four.
Zona.
All right. I'll finish out this West region here, starting at the top. Arizona will, in fact, beat Weber State, as it is pronounced. And then we'll take it
show
on
me
down
up.
to Gonzaga and Oklahoma State. Going to be a good game. John Stockton's son playing for Gonzaga, going to make it interesting. However, Oklahoma State is too talented. Marcus Smart, LeBron Nash and crew take that one easily. Then, Oklahoma, North Dakota State. I agree with Dustin. This is a big-time upset game. This is a trap game. Oklahoma getting that 5 seed, I think that was generous. I think they could have been at least 7. But nonetheless, North Dakota State is going to win that game. Going to be an upset in the first round. San Diego State, New Mexico State. I do like New Mexico State normally. We've seen them in past tournaments. They're a fun team. However, SDSU, too good this year. Very good out of the Mountain West Conference. SDSU wins that one. Then we move to Baylor and Nebraska. That's going to be a good one, too, because both teams have NBA prospects. Nebraska, a very solid team, but Baylor, I really like Isaiah Austin and the presence he gives that team. Baylor's going to win that game. Then we have the 3-14 matchup, Creighton and Louisiana Lafayette. And boy, do I want to pick Louisiana Lafayette, but I'm not going to.
We should do it.
They do have
Hey, I did it
an
with
NBA
Mercer,
prospect in Alfred Payton. He averages 19, 6, and 6. So if they take down Creighton, don't be surprised, because I told you it was coming. But I'm not going to say that right now. Creighton is going to win that game. Doug McDermott.
I have one question. How much does Doug McDermott average a game?
He averages
You probably have
26.9.
6.9. Is that more than 14.2 or whatever you said?
Well, it's 19.
19?
But anyway,
It's more.
it's going to be a tight game. Creighton's going to win that one. Next, Oregon and BYU. Oregon is a very talented team. They have guys, Mike Moser, who transferred from UNLV, really dominates the floor at times, along with point guard John Lloyd. He's a great floor general. I really like Oregon in this one. They take down Brigham Young. Then, Wisconsin and American. I think that could also be a trap game, but Wisconsin is going to win that one. I think it's going to be a tight game, and Wisconsin's going to pull away at the end, win by about 11. Then we go to the round of 32. Zona and Oklahoma State. I agree. This has been a toss-up game, and we really don't know what's going to happen with it. I think it could go either way, but I think in the end, Nick Johnson and Arizona and Aaron Gordon are too much for Marcus Smart and crew. I think this game is going to go down to the last shot, the last second. It doesn't matter. It's going to be a fun one. Then, North Dakota State and SDSU. Again, SDSU, too good. Going to move on to play Arizona in the Sweet 16. Then we have Baylor and Creighton. This also going to be a very competitive game. And in this game, Doug McDermott is going to come up a little small. Ooh. And Baylor is going to come out and make it into the Sweet 16. Ooh. Isaiah Austin, again, one of my favorite players in the league today. Baylor wins that one. Oregon and Wisconsin. This is where I think my bracket kind of, things are kind of scary a bit, because I'm going to have in the Sweet 16 a 6-7 matchup. Oregon's going to beat Wisconsin. They are two all-around and very good, very fast and athletic team. I think Oregon beats Wisconsin in Milwaukee. It's going to be a fun one. Then we have in the Sweet 16, Arizona and SDSU. That is going to be a battle. Two West Coast teams. Going to be a very fun game. But again, Zona, too much star power on their team to not make it to the Elite Eight. Zona will. Baylor and Oregon. And boy, is this going to be a fun one. Two green teams. Baylor and Oregon. But Baylor, again, I really like them this year. They've played great basketball down the stretch here, especially in the Big 12 tournament. And I think Baylor is going to be too much for Oregon. They're going to make it into the Elite Eight. And that sets up Arizona and Baylor in the Elite Eight. I like this game a lot. But I think, again, Zona, too much star power. The Wildcats are headed to the Final Four. And guys, just kind of, so we've covered all our bases so far, and we've discussed teams that could potentially mess up other brackets, but some that we haven't necessarily picked. I want you guys to give me a game where you didn't pick a team but you think that it could be just a blowout game, or excuse me, a mess-up game. They could just mess up brackets.
Blow up everybody's brackets.
Absolutely, yes,
Okay.
correct. Joey, start with you.
Come back to me. I got
I thought you said yours.
I did, but he said somebody I didn't pick.
Joey picked Mercer. So okay, we'll start with you, Tommy.
You have
look
to come
ready.
back to me, man. I don't know yet. There's a few games that I kind of thought that this could happen. I was looking at Pitt. Pitt looks pretty good, but Florida's just too tough. You're thinking about maybe possibly one of these number ones going down, but again, Florida with all those seniors, it's not going to be Florida. If you're going to go with a team that can go down, it's not going to be Florida. Virginia, I like Virginia a lot, and they're red hot, so I can't take them. But Memphis is a good team. That could be a very good one. Again, this is tough. I think Michigan could surprise some people. I think they could take down Duke. But Duke, I think a lot of people are going to trust in Duke. Michigan, I'm going to show some Big Ten love. They could surprise somebody. But again, and then SLU against Louisville. That's an interesting one. SLU, very good team. Valpo, we only lost by a couple points.
1 point at the buzzer.
At the buzzer.
Or
Again,
something
there's
like
shady, a lot of shady things about SLU, but they have some talent over there. Again, there's a lot of them.
Sure thing. All right, Joey, you ready now?
Yeah, I can take a stab at it. I think the first one for me is going to be the Wichita State, Cal Poly, Texas Southern play-in. I made mention of it earlier as just kind of being the devil's advocate, but the more I thought about it, I could honestly see either Texas Southern or Cal Poly knocking off Wichita State. Like I mentioned, in the Missouri Valley Conference, Wichita State struggled, seemingly. And like we all said, that was 2 weeks ago before they're going to wind up getting on the floor again. So I could see them coming out cold, getting caught off guard, and then having to play from behind. And if they get, they're going to have to run pacer or something in order to win that one, I think. That'd be my first one. And then my more accurate, not crapshoot one, I would have to go with I'd have to go to the Harvard-Michigan State game. I think Harvard could probably do it. I know it would bust my bracket if it happened. I've watched Harvard probably not as much.
With the head bob right now.
I've watched Harvard not as probably as much as Tommy has, but they're a really solid team. I'll have to give it to Tommy on that one. He might be right. Can we cut that
For
out?
once.
Excuse me. You might be right for once.
Don't want Tommy to be right.
Why are we underrating MSU like this? They are stacked.
I have the same feelings, Dustin. Go ahead. Who are your picks?
I want to look at that first Kansas game. Kansas, they don't have Embiid, but I think that if they can get behind, I don't know if they can come back. And I think they need Embiid because Kentucky is Eastern Kentucky is a pretty big team, and I don't think if they get ahead, they might catch them.
I'm going to comment on this. Every year when I pick brackets, I do the whole quarter flip. I have a bracket where I did quarter flip. Eastern Kentucky is in the Elite Eight.
I'm
not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying I can see where you're coming from.
That game could be a bracket buster because if Kansas falls behind, I don't know. They won't have Embiid, and I really think they need him to make it far. And I don't think they can do it. I just don't think they can do it if they fall behind. Another game I was looking at, I was looking at North Dakota State. I think North Dakota State has a talent to make it to the Elite Eight. Possibly, I think they can beat Zona. They have a good front court, and I think they got potential to beat them. Any game involving Virginia. I think Virginia is offensively, they're not as good as people think. They're a great defensive team, but with defensive teams, if you just happen to have a bad game offensively, some teams can catch you. So I think Virginia can get caught in the early rounds, but for the most part, those are my only games I'm pretty shaky on.
We are going to take a break, and when we come back, we will finish up with our Final Four predictions. So don't touch the dial because Parker, Tommy, Joey, and Dustin are coming back with your NCAA tournament locks at the Final Four and the champion. Stay tuned.
On a campus plagued with terrible weather, Valpo students suffer from boredom with no motivation to leave their room. They begin to search for free movies and stumble upon Valpo's new free movie streaming website, where you get unlimited free access to recent movies like Despicable Me 2 and Jobs at the tips of your fingers. So if you're feeling bored, then don't wait. Grab some friends, find a seat, and enjoy a movie on movies.valpo.edu.
Welcome back to Sports Night on this special edition where we are talking NCAA tournament. We have broke down our brackets and we have made it to the double F portion of the bracket, the Final Four, everybody's favorite. We've made it here, and now let's find out from Mr. Tommy Mantice who made it there in his Final Four.
Thank you, Parker. Out of the South, Florida. In the East, Virginia. Out of the West, Creighton. And in the Midwest, Louisville. And I'll start out with the Florida and Virginia contest. I'm into Florida this year. I think they're very good. They will take down Virginia. Virginia will be no match to Florida. And then a lot of people are going to be interested in this. Creighton and Louisville in the Final Four to play Florida. You got to give it to Louisville. You have to. Again, Dustin said.
Regain sense.
No, I'm not. No, my sense has been here the whole time. Like Dustin said, it doesn't take one player. It doesn't usually win you the whole thing. Louisville's got more than one player. They'll go to the championship game. And Louisville, for the second year in a row, goes to the championship, this time against Florida. But Louisville does not have enough magic left to pull 2 in a row. It's really hard to do 2 in a row. Florida wins this one. I'll give you a score, 77-72. And Joakim Noah is very happy with me right now, I know. I know for a fact he's very happy with me.
The Bulls connection.
All right.
Well, I always bring it out.
Out of the-
Got to.
Out of the South, I've got Kansas going. East, Michigan State. West, Wisconsin. In the Midwest, Michigan. The Kansas-Michigan State matchup, Bill Self versus Tom Izzo. I got to give it to Kansas. And then look at the other side, the Wisconsin-Michigan matchup. I got to give it to Michigan. We're going to get, in my opinion, a rematch of the best game of the tournament last year, the Michigan-Kansas game. I'm going to give it to – I originally wrote down Michigan. I think I'm going to have to stick with that. They're a pretty solid team. I'll give it to Michigan over Kansas, 75-70 the final.
You still picking Kansas even though Embiid is questionable, you know?
Hey, we'll see.
All right. All right, and then the South region, I have Florida, as we all do. Florida's just too good. I have
Florida, by the way.
Oh, you don't have Florida? Oh, you have Kansas. I forgot. Oh, wow. That quick. I have Florida. I have MSU, Michigan State in the East. I have Arizona in the West, and I have Duke in the Midwest. I'll go with the Florida-Michigan State matchup first. I think Florida, for the first time, is going to meet a team that is as talented and as together and has just as much senior leadership as they do. And I think that's going to override in that matchup. And I think Michigan State have too much firepower and be able to beat up Florida inside and win that game and go into the national championship. Then we have the Zona and Duke matchup. And I believe they met in Madison Square Garden on a neutral floor earlier this year, and Duke pretty much ran them off the floor. You know, that's a matchup of the super freshmen with Jabari and Aaron Gordon, but I think Jabari is obviously the more complete player, and I think he'd be able to lead them to the national championship along with some contributions from Rodney Hood and R.J. Dawkins and all those guys. And then they'll set up a Tom Izzo, Coach K matchup in the national championship, MSU versus Duke. And I'm going to have to give it to MSU. MSU playing great at this time. They're the winner of the best conference in college basketball, the Big Ten, and it has to count for something. And I think Michigan State will take it and win the national championship.
All right, so up to this point, we have Michigan State, Florida, Michigan. That's correct. All right, and now I'll just real quickly here hit with my Final Four. To remind, in the South I had Kansas, in the East, Michigan State, West, Arizona, and the Midwest, Louisville. I'm looking forward to these teams making it to the Final Four because that's what's going to happen. Because all my picks are going to be correct, and Warren Buffett is going to owe me $1 billion.
And then we're sharing. Remember the pat we made?
Absolutely, we're sharing. Kansas is going to play Michigan State, and boy, are they going to have a fun game because Embiid is going to be back healthy. He's going to be with Andrew Wiggins, and they're going to put on a show but lose to Michigan State. Adrian Payne, Harris, Gary Harris, Keith Appling. Too much firepower, too much offense. Spartans win that one. Then you go over to the other side, Arizona and Louisville. And this is going to be a fun one too because the Wildcats are talented and have had control over that Pac-12 all year except for in the Pac-12 conference title game. Zona is going to put up a fight. But Russ Smith and Louisville, there's just something about them this year. They're on a tremendous run. They're riding the hot streak, and they're going to ride it all the way to the championship game. Spartans, Cardinals, championship matchup. And this one, I cannot wait to watch it happen. The Spartans are going to triumph over the Louisville Cardinals 69-65. Michigan State, Tom Izzo wins, and it's a great year for the Spartans.
Great minds think
overall.
alike.
Absolutely.
I see you, man.
And that's going to do it for us. Thanks for sticking with us the entire way, and thanks for tuning in for some bracketology and taking in the festivities of March Madness. Well, our favorite time of year. It really is a great time in sports, and it's been fun for this college basketball season, and it's going to be great to watch it conclude.
Absolutely. And again, when you're filling out those brackets, have some imagination. Don't listen to the pros. Research, watch the games.
And pick Creighton.
Yeah.
And pick Creighton and Harvard.
And pick
And
Harvard.
Mercer.
Pick
And
Harvard
Mercer.
and Mercer. Everybody. We'll just pick Weber State.
Pick everybody 10 seed and under. You'll be all right.
Signing off for Tommy Mantice, Joey Basil, and Dustin Levi, I'm Parker Gatewood. Remember to stay updated on ValpoAthletics.com for all your Valpo news. And thanks for sticking with us. Have a great March Madness and NCAA tournament, Valpo.